Today we're going to be visiting the oldest bars in America, starting right here in Boston. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video. We're going to be going to the undisputed oldest bar and restaurant down in Newport, Rhode Island, the White Horse Tavern. All right, let's get into the video, starting with an iconic Boston establishment right here behind me, the Union Oyster House. Let's head on inside. The Union Oyster House is the oldest continually running restaurant in the United States, established in 1826. The continually running part is pretty important, but we'll touch more on that later. The building itself dates back to 1704 and can be found right here on this map from 1722. This oyster bar is original to the building, and you may notice that it has a slight lean to it, and that's because, you guessed it, it used to be a leaning bar, and these seats weren't added until later. Daniel Webster was famous for being a regular at this bar, and legend has it he used to down a cup of brandy with every half dozen oysters. In his honor, I will also be drinking their Daniel Webster brandy cocktail along with a half dozen oysters. The Daniel Webster. It's pretty funny that they have to even out your plate with coasters so it doesn't slide off this bar. Other famous guests include Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy. They even dedicated JFK's favorite booth in his memory where you can sit down and eat. Now how cool is this? The JFK booth, this was his favorite booth in the restaurant. If you're visiting Boston, the Union Oyster House is a must. It's a living piece of history and a really cool experience. Bell in Hand is America's oldest continually running tavern. Emphasis on continually running, established in 1795. It was founded by the city of Boston's last town crier, Jimmy Wilson. Bruh. Town criers would pretty much yell the daily news and shake a bell in their hand to get everybody's attention, hence the name of the bar. The bar only sold beer until 1919 because Jimmy wasn't a fan of liquor, and back then they used to serve two mugs, one for your ale and one for the froth. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I'm gonna roll with it. Since they wouldn't serve me a full cup of foam, I thought it'd be appropriate to get two beers instead. I decided on their Bell in Hand Ale, which is made by Cambridge Brewing Company and can only be found at this location. It's important to point out that Bell in Hand had a few different locations until it settled in this building in 1844. However, the original bar top from 1795 hopped around with the name and can be found right here. What didn't travel with the bar is the original Bell in Hand sign, which is now in the old Boston City Hall. They do have this replica inside though. Bell in Hand puts you right in the middle of downtown Boston and next to a few other bars that are on this list. Its history alone is worth a visit, but I will say it's also a great time out at night. All right guys, here we are at Green Dragon Tavern, established originally in 1654. This building right here was established in 1993, but the history still lives on through this bar. Let's go check it out and see what's inside. Now I know what you're thinking. Why is this place called the Green Dragon? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's because there used to be a bronze dragon hanging outside, and once bronze weathers, it oxidizes and turns into a greenish color. Here's a replica of what it would have looked like back in 1654. There you pretty much have it, the Green Dragon Tavern. The original bar burned down many times, which is apparently relatively common back then. I believe it was also demolished at another location, and I think you see where I'm going with this. The only thing that the actual bar has in common with this place is the name. But hey, it's still worth checking out considering it's right next to the Union Oyster House and Bell in Hand. Big events in the country's history occurred here, like planning the Boston Tea Party and the American Revolution. Even Paul Revere caught wind that the British are coming inside of this bar. People like John Hancock and Paul Revere were some of the regulars here. And it's fair to say that there wouldn't be an America without the Green Dragon Tavern. All right guys, here we are at Warren Tavern in Charlestown, Massachusetts. And I am super excited to get started with this one. We could be standing and sitting in the same exact spot that George Washington once did back in the day. Let's go take a look inside. I simply can't make a video on the oldest bars in America while being in Boston and not go to the Warren Tavern. It's the oldest tavern in Massachusetts, named after General Joseph Warren, who died in the Battle of Bunker Hill. And it's one of the first buildings to be rebuilt afterwards, when essentially the entirety of Charlestown burned down. Warren Tavern has been in the same building since it was established, and I think one of the coolest things is how this is the only bar on the list that George Washington drank at. They used old wooden beams that were salvaged from the ships at the Charlestown Navy Yard to build this place, which would make them even older. It's a national landmark and a local staple. You really get the vibe that you're taking a step back in time. While we're still in Boston, I also went to J.J. Foley's, the first Irish pub in Boston, established in 1909, to grab a Guinness. And then I went to Amrine's in South Boston to check out the first draft beer pump and hand-carved bar in America. So I get it. All these bars are old, right? But I wanted to go to the oldest. Like the first bar in America, the one that started it all. So I did what anybody else would do. And I Googled it. And it just so happens to be 2 hours away from me, so I can't pass it up. Let's head down to Newport, Rhode Island.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, we made it here to Newport, Rhode Island, to the White Horse Tavern, the oldest bar in all of America. What better place to be than the one that started it all? So let's go grab a bite to eat, get a drink, and see what it's all about. If you couldn't tell by now, a lot of bars claim to be the oldest in America. They all sneak things in like continually operated or being within the same building. Well, the White Horse Tavern comes up as the very first. And although it hasn't been continually operated, the building itself is actually older and it didn't open up as a tavern until 1673. I'll tell you this right now. You can tell how old it is as soon as you walk into the place. Like, it's no joke. It has low ceilings, small rooms, everything seems to be all misshapen, dark, and just flat out antique. One thing that really sticks out to me is how it feels like more of a house than a restaurant or bar. Now, with that said, I would certainly call it a fine dining establishment. You have to make a reservation to be sat down, so I decided on the bar, which is also very small with only about 4 seats or so, and also had a wait. I got one of their most popular cocktails, the Dark and Stormy, and the reason behind that is actually kind of interesting. It was once owned by a pirate in 1702, and it turns out Newport was home to a lot of pirates back in the 17th century due to its proximity to the sea, and rum was naturally one of the biggest trades. Therefore, I'm told that the Dark and Stormy, or pretty much just rum with ginger beer, is their go-to. Alright guys, the White Horse Tavern was everything that it lived up to be. Really cool, a lot of history. The food was fantastic, definitely worth the trip. I would recommend this place to anybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.